going to show you the basic button braid for horse shows, and I'm going to sew them in, but I'll also show you how to do it with elastics. For braiding the mane, a couple tricks and things to have with you. I love this stuff. It's quick braid. It's kind of like a horse hairspray, but it works wonders if you have a lot of loose hairs. It just makes it easier to grab the mane. I have heard of people using egg whites, but you can also just spray water on it. But make sure you either dampen the mane just so you have better grip, and never put any sort of spray on it that'll make it silky or hard to hold. The other thing is to have some sort of clip. I usually use the cheap ones from stores, like the big hair clips, because it holds a little bit more mane, but anything like that will work. And then to have a needle for when we're sewing them. A little trick too is I always use this wax cord better than the yarn. It stays better, you can make them tighter and neater, and it's just the best stuff ever. And then to cut it, to get the right length, I go around my arm, take it, and cut it. This will be quite long, but I really wanted to show you kind of how it works. When they come in black, it comes in black and white. I'm going to show you in white today just so you can kind of see better what I'm doing with the elastics. Alright, with the mane, start, I'll even just spray it down a little bit. Oop. Again, I'll kind of try to get those hairs down. And then I use the comb to make sure it's got a nice little even line in the neck. Some people like to break them up beforehand, but I just kind of do the same length for each one and just go as it is. So you hold the hair back. What I'll do. Three sections. And my braiding style is going over, and I'll show you with the tail braid too. It kind of creates an outer braid, but keep it nice and tight at the top. Definitely the trick. She's got a lot of winter hair underneath there, and then when I get about halfway, I'll introduce the yarn or the wax cord, and then just lay it across two different pieces, and then continue braiding it in. And when you get to the bottom, separate the two wax pieces, loop it around, back in itself to tie it. Normally what I'll do is I'll go down, I'll do a couple more, and then you can go back. You can even use the clip. Just make sure you get a nice even line there. Just looks tidier. Spray it down. Separate it. Again, the bottom, loop it around, pull nice and tight. Once you get the hang of it, you kind of do it without even thinking, and it can be quite quick. I try to always use the wax cord just because it keeps them really tidy, but I will show you the elastics, which I've done before for a clinic real quick, or I'm in a rush at a show. So what I'll actually usually do is I'll do like 4 or 5, and I'll fold them up to kind of then make sure it's all looking even, and then do a few more, and then fold them up and do a few more. Some people like to braid them all down. But now to pull them up, you need your needle. So if you get pretty good at it, you'll usually have it even at the bottom. Nice part about the wax thread is that you can bend it and it stays really well and it doesn't slip out of the needle. So then, sew it in, fold up the braid right at the top, pull it right underneath, and pull it right up, nice and tight. And then some people might just fold it and sew it through again. I tend to sew it down once, and back up to the bottom. This tends to get me a lot of gigs at shows because these braids stay in very well. So once you go through the bottom, go back up through at the top again, create that nice little button, and I'll sew back through the bottom one more time. Make sure you get the bottom part of the braid. And then you pull the needle off. And then you spread them. I'll tie a knot at the top, and I'll do one underneath. And then you just flip the bottom. You can double knot it too. My other trick is also always take an elastic after and still go over it. My braids stay in. So if you're going to be leaving your horse's braids in, or they're going to need to be in for a few days at the show, I definitely recommend sewing them in. If you have a horse that rubs them out, then obviously you'll need to take them out. But this is a great way if you have to leave them in for a while. You have a horse's mane that is unruly. I've done horses' manes where the people said they can't be braided, and I sew them in, and darn things stay in. Alright, so this one I'll show you not sewing the braid down. It's easier to get out, a little quicker. So just sew up through. I always take this end hair and tuck it. I'll show you another trick for that after. So pull it up nice and taut. And fold the braid underneath again. And sew back down through. And just make sure you go through the bottom braid. And pull it out. Separate them. Pull it up tight. Tie it. And I always finish it with tying it underneath so you can't see the knot. And then trim it. And another nice thing about the wax cord is you can fold it down and it'll stay and won't stick out. Alright, so if your horse has a thin, very long neck, you want to make sure you don't do too many. And then also with a horse that doesn't have a lot of crest, you can really put the braids on top to create that crest. And then again, if you have a horse that has a very cresty neck, like the stallions, or some of the more Baroque breeds, you want to kind of put them down a little bit, and you can do less of them. And then if you are doing a thicker neck horse, you can do more of them to make it look appear a little bit longer and put them down a little bit on their neck. I'll show you now just the same braid, but with elastics. Should I show down here? Again, just separate it like we did up top. And just braid the hair. Remember, keeping it nice and tight at the top. Off the bottom. I'm using elastic. Sometimes I'll fold the hair over. It's easier to tuck up. And then her mane's a little bit longer, so I'll probably have to fold it twice, but depending on the mane, you might only have to fold it up under once. it up. Again, a little button. Let's put a little elastic around it. Trying to keep them, all the braids, similar width so they all look the same. Again, if I was doing, you could pull in depending on how much hair you want to pull in. Some of the dressage riders tend to like the nice, wide, chunky ones. Or if you're doing like hunters or jumpers, sometimes they'll be smaller. I'll show you a bigger one. Again, you might have to fold it twice. And if it's thicker, sometimes I'll put 2 elastics on. You never have enough elastics. So you can see it's a lot wider. Alright, for taking the sewn braids out, you'll just want to lift up underneath, and you can trim both those. Careful not to trim your horse's mane. Trim both of them. And then you'll trim the 2 going into it. Another little trick is using the sewing needles. You can just go right up. Mine are a little bit harder to get out when I sew it down, but keeps them in better. And then just pull it. And sometimes it'll just pull right off the end or just slip that through.